Have you noticed something different about your cat lately? Not something dramatic, nothing you could easily point to and say, that's it. That's the problem. Just a subtle shift in the quality of things between you. Maybe it's been a little less present than usual, a little more distant. Maybe it walks past you without the acknowledgement it used to give. Maybe it's been sleeping in different spots, away from you rather than near you. Maybe you reached for it yesterday and it moved just slightly out of range with that particular quality of deliberateness that is impossible to misread but very easy to dismiss. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought you'd rather not examine too closely has been forming. Is my cat ignoring me? Is it actually giving me the silent treatment? Most cat owners laugh this off. Cats don't hold grudges, people say. They don't have that kind of emotional complexity. They don't remember what you did last Tuesday and decide to punish you for it. That's a human thing. That's projection. You're anthropomorphizing. But here's the thing. What if you're not? What if the cool distance your cat has been keeping, that the subtle withdrawal, the quality of not quite there that has settled over your interactions recently, is not random, not mood, not coincidence, but a real, behaviorally grounded, emotionally genuine response to something that happened between you, something you did, almost certainly without realizing it, that your cat registered completely, filed carefully, and has been quietly responding to ever since? Because the science of feline social behavior has something very specific to say about this, and what it says will make you look back over the last few days or weeks with completely different eyes. Stay with me, because the moment in this story that tends to hit people hardest, the one where they go quiet and say, "Oh," is still ahead. Let's start by dismantling something that gets repeated so often it has become received wisdom. The idea that cats don't have social memory, that they live entirely in the present, that whatever happened yesterday is simply gone for them, dissolved in the endless, consequence-free now of animal consciousness. This is wrong, and it is wrong in ways that have been demonstrated clearly and repeatedly in behavioral research. Cats have what researchers call episodic-like memory, the ability to remember specific events in context and to use those memories to shape future behavior. This has been studied in controlled laboratory settings and confirmed in observational research in domestic environments. Cats remember, not in the narrative, language-based way that humans remember, but in the felt, associative, body-based way that is, in some respects, more durable and more behaviorally powerful than conscious recall. What this means in practical terms is this. When something happens between you and your cat, when an interaction occurs that your cat's nervous system registers as significant, as unexpected, as a deviation from the pattern of what it expects from you, that experience is not simply processed and discarded, it is stored, associated with you, with the context in which it occurred, and with the emotional register it produced. And the next time you appear, or the next time a similar context arises, that stored association shapes how your cat responds. Your cat does not forget, it adapts. An adaptation, in the behavioral language of a cat, that has been made uncertain by something you did, looks very much like what most owners call the silent treatment. Something deeper is happening here than a cat in a mood. But before we go any further, there is something important to say about the word punishment. Because when people use it to describe what their cat is doing, they tend to imagine something intentional, strategic, a cat that sat down and decided, with premeditation, to make you feel bad. And that framing, while emotionally intuitive, is not quite what is happening. And understanding the difference matters enormously. Because once you understand what is actually driving the behavior, you know exactly what to do about it. Your cat is not punishing you in the human sense. It is not running a calculated campaign of emotional withdrawal designed to make you suffer and learn your lesson. What it is doing is something both simpler and more honest than that. It is responding to its own internal state, a state of mild wariness or uncertainty or reduced trust, by doing what any animal with a sophisticated emotional nervous system does when its safety has been partially compromised. It creates distance. It monitors from further away. It waits to see whether the thing that made it uncertain is going to happen again before it reinstates the level of openness it had before. This is not manipulation. This is self-protection. And the reason it feels so much like the silent treatment is because, from the outside, the behavioral result is almost identical. the withdrawal, the quality of being looked through rather than looked at, the absence of the small, spontaneous gestures of closeness, the headbutt, the slow blink, the appearing in the same room just because that you didn't notice until they stopped. What most owners don't realize is that this behavioral withdrawal is one of the most honest things their cat ever does. It is your cat showing you, without pretense, exactly how it is feeling, not performing okayness when it isn't okay, not glossing over what happened in the interest of social smoothness, just responding, truthfully, in real time, to the reality of its internal state. Your cat, in other words, is a terrible liar, and the silence is the truth. So what did you do? This is the question that most people are sitting with at this point in the story. And the honest answer is probably one of a small number of things that show up so consistently in the research on feline. Social disruption, that they form almost a complete picture of the most common ways humans accidentally break the ease between themselves and their cats. The most frequent one, by a significant margin, is something we explored in an earlier story: imposed physical contact, being picked up without invitation, being held past the point of willingness, being touched in the moment of approach rather than being allowed to approach on its own terms. These interactions leave a residue, not always, not with every cat, but with cats that are more sensitive to autonomy. And many of the cats that form the deepest bonds are exactly these cats. A few instances of contact that felt like containment rather than invitation can shift something, create a wariness that was not there before, make the cat recalibrate how close it is willing to get until sufficient evidence accumulates that the pattern has changed. But here is the one that fewer people see coming, the one that lands differently when people hear it, and it is, in many cases, the actual trigger behind the distance they have been experiencing. A raised voice, not directed at the cat necessarily, not even in the cat's vicinity sometimes, but a moment, an argument, a frustrated outburst, a phone call that went wrong, an evening where the stress of everything boiled over into a volume and an energy that the house does not usually carry, that your cat experienced without any context for what it meant. Remember what we know about how cats read human emotional states. They are not processing the content of what you say. They are not understanding that you are frustrated about work, or that the conversation you were having was difficult, or that the raised voice had nothing to do with them and will be over soon. What they are processing is the acoustic and energetic reality of it, a sudden, sharp, unpredicted change in the emotional weather of the space they depend on for safety. A voice, the voice they know better than almost any other sound in their world, becoming something unfamiliar, something that their nervous system cannot confidently categorize as safe. And a nervous system that has experienced one unpredicted shift in safety from a specific source will, quite reasonably and quite automatically, increase its monitoring of that source going forward, keep a slightly greater distance, watch more carefully before approaching, wait for confirmation that the unpredicted thing is not going to happen. Again, before reinstating the previous level of trust. This is where it gets interesting, because the cat's response to this, the careful distance, the quality of watchfulness, is so easily misread by the owner that it often creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The owner notices the distance, feels confused or hurt by it, tries harder to initiate contact, reaches more, pursues more, and the cat, already in a mild state of increased wariness, reads this pursuit as further pressure and withdraws a little more, both of them responding to each other in ways that make perfect internal sense and are making everything worse. Now let's talk about something that sits underneath all the specific triggers, something that is actually the root cause of why cats respond to these moments the way they do. And understanding it will give you not just the answer to what happened, but the solution to it. Cats do not experience safety as a constant, they experience it as something that must be continually confirmed. This is not anxiety in the clinical sense, it is an accurate biological response to the nature of the world that shaped them. In the environment their nervous systems were built for, safety was never guaranteed. It had to be checked and rechecked again. And the primary way it was confirmed was through the predictability of the surrounding environment, the reliable, consistent pattern of the things and beings that made up a cat's known world. When you are consistent, when your voice, your energy, your behavior toward your cat follows the pattern that your cat has built its sense of safety around, your presence is one of the most powerfully soothing things in its world. You are known, you are reliable, you are safe. And when the pattern breaks, even once, even briefly, even for reasons that have nothing to do with your cat, something in the safety structure shifts. Not catastrophically, not permanently, but enough that the cat's nervous system registers it and responds with the behavioral equivalent of stepping back to reassess. Something deeper is happening in the silence your cat is giving you than hurt feelings or grudge holding. This is a being recalibrating its safety assessment of you, taking the time and the distance it needs to observe whether you are still who it believed you to be, whether the pattern will hold, whether the evidence that accumulates in the days after the disruption supports the conclusion that you are still safe. And this is why the solution is never to chase. Never to push harder into the space your cat has created, because the distance is not rejection. It is inquiry. Your cat is asking a question, silently, through the quality of its behavior, and the only answer it will accept is the one it can observe for itself, in the pattern of your actions, over the time it takes for that pattern to restore itself to something recognizable. So what do you actually do? How do you answer the question your cat is asking without speaking the language it speaks? You become boring. Reliably, consistently, gloriously boring. You move through the house in your ordinary way. You maintain your routine. You make yourself available without making yourself insistent. You sit in the same room as your cat without orienting your entire body toward it, without reaching, without the quality of wanting that cats read with uncomfortable precision and often experience as pressure. You let the space between you be whatever size your cat needs it to be, and you fill your side of that space with the most powerful signal you can send. Predictability, calmness. The reassuring message, transmitted through every unremarkable, pressure-free moment, that you are still who you have always been, that the disruption was an aberration, not a revelation, that the pattern holds, that you are still safe. And then you wait, not passively, not anxiously, but with the particular quality of patient presence that your cat will eventually feel from across the room, the way it feels everything you broadcast, through the skin and the breath and the biochemical signature of a person who is simply here and not demanding anything from the being that is watching. Most owners find this excruciatingly hard because the instinct when someone you love is distant is to move toward them, to close the gap, to demonstrate the love through action and contact and insistence. But with a cat, that instinct, however sincere, however well-intentioned, is the wrong move almost every time. What most owners don't realize is that the moment they stop trying is often the exact moment the cat comes back. Not always immediately, not always dramatically, but in the small, characteristic, unmistakable way of a cat that has been watching and waiting and finally has enough evidence to conclude, yes, it's still safe. The pattern held, I can come back. A slow walk across the room, a deliberate settling nearby, a head tilted upward toward your hand with that expression of offered contact that is, in the language of cats, one of the most complete reinstatements of trust that exists. Here is what I want you to carry from this story. Your cat's silence was never really about you. It was about safety, about a creature whose inner world is organized around the reliable predictability of the beings it loves, and the way that reliability, when interrupted, requires time and evidence to restore. The silence was honest. It was real. It was your cat telling you the truth about its internal state in the only language it has, behavioral, immediate, completely sincere. And the fact that it is coming back to you now, or the fact that it will come back, when you give it the space and the consistency it needs to do so, is equally honest, equally real. Your cat is not punishing you. It is trusting you with the truth of how it feels. It is showing you, without pretense, the exact shape of what it needs from you to feel safe. Again, and that transparency, that inability to perform okayness when it isn't, is one of the most genuinely loving things about it. Be the pattern it can count on. Be consistent enough that the question it is asking gets answered in the only way that will satisfy it, through the quiet, accumulated evidence of your daily presence, your daily calm, your daily choice to be someone worth coming back to. It will come back. It always does, for the ones who deserve it. Make sure you're still deserving it, every day. In the small, unremarkable ways that matter most, that is all your cat has ever asked of you. If this story helped you understand a distance you've been feeling with your cat, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden emotional world of cats, stay right here. There's always more to discover.